So it looks like things are only getting worse for anime. Let's talk about it. The Dog and the Boy is a brand new anime short released this week. It follows a young boy who finds this robot dog. They bond together and have all the fun a boy and a man's best friend would have, until suddenly war breaks loose and they're tragically separated. Okay, so it's a fine enough concept in itself, but the problem is, this isn't made by humans, at least not entirely. The Dog and the Boy is directed by Ryotaro Makihara, director of Vampire in the Garden, teaming up with Netflix and Wit Studios. There's an actual team of animators here who I'm sure are working very hard, but the rest of it, the backgrounds, the environments, that sort of thing, all AI. Obviously, this has been causing massive controversy as AI has basically been trying to kill every creative industry. But before we get into all of that, let's look at what the director has to say first. According to Anime Corner, Makihara says the following. By combining tools and hand-drawn techniques, I realized that I could focus on what only humans can do and thus broaden my range of expressions. To break that down further, he's basically saying that by having AI handle the background work, he and his team will be able to combine their efforts into delivering on stronger and more diverse character work. They wouldn't need to put any of their resources in stuff like backgrounds and can instead put them into the human element. The problem with this logic is that it treats humans as if we're separate from our background, our environment and nature. It actually reminds me of this great quote from Norm Macdonald. After Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeted the following, "The universe is blind to our sorrows and indifferent to our pains." Norm replied with this, "Neil, there's a logic flaw in your little aphorism that seems quite telling. Since you and I are part of the universe, then we would also be indifferent and uncaring. Perhaps you forgot, Neil, that we are not superior to the universe, but merely a fraction of it." See, we affect our environment more than any other creature on this planet. We hold such great importance of our environment that removing the humanity from it is to basically go against the point of art. Art doesn't exist in a vacuum. It pulls from a million different resources to make the art that we see today. It's for this reason why people question if a curtain is blue because it's blue, or if it's supposed to symbolize the downfall of humanity or whatever else. And that's the problem. With AI, there's nothing to gain from it. It didn't intend anything. It's a collage of other people's works grabbed and spliced together to give a generic idea of what we'd expect to see. And you know what? It looks good. Like, just glancing at it for the few frames it's in, it looks nice enough to please the eye, and then it moves on. But that's it. That's all there is to it. There's nothing to be discerned from the natural environment to the war-torn hellscape the characters are in. It goes against the point of the story, which is the horrors of war, because there's nothing that horrific here from a human perspective. None of these were built to say anything. They were built to simply imply something of value. Koji Tanaka, the Dog and the Boy's photography director, seems to think otherwise. Many creators are working on multiple projects at the same time, making it difficult for them to focus on one work at a time. We wanted to figure out a way to give creators more time to be creative. And look, I get that to some extent. Most people aren't going to notice the background, so having all that work be automated is just smart from a business standpoint. Well, at least until you start thinking about it. I think Samuel Dietz, director of Castlevania, says it pretty perfectly here. The way they're promoting the use of AI as a solution to their labor shortage in a short designed to make you sympathize with a robot dog to tug on easy heartstrings while pushing the agenda feels kinda gross. The process doesn't even look like it would save any time either. Setting aside ethics issues, you can mass produce backgrounds by building 3D sets for common locations, or building kits of 2D assets that can be dropped into multiple shots. Everything I've seen of AI image stuff appears slower and less consistent than these common practices. The only scenario this might help is if you have a bunch of one-off backgrounds, which just isn't the reality most times. I guess it'd be an option for a relatively rare scenario, but I question that it's really faster or will actually save any money. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen Castlevania yet, watch it. Anyway, something to add to this that Tanaka's statement seems to glance over is the obvious problem at hand to reach a shaky solution. Why are there so many animes being worked on at the same time? Like, I know it sounds silly, but it's also completely true. We do not need this much anime. Now, I just want to make it clear, obviously this isn't gonna happen. We get this much anime because it's really profitable to do so, and the only time we'll stop getting this much anime is when it's not. And this isn't Tanaka's fault either. He's having to work within the restrictions he's in. The only people that can change this are those at the very top, and they're not gonna change anything so long as they're making money. All the while, animators will have to suffer the workload and make only a penny. And making a penny is awful, but making nothing is worse. So nothing's gonna change. The last thing I want to bring up is actually the Dog and the Boy itself. And honestly, it just kind of sucks. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it also is just kind of boring and just poorly made. It's lifeless as hell, and it's so obviously trying to make you cry, but it lacks any sense of humanity in it. AI or not, it's pretty bad. It's just made worse with the fact that there is no passion here. Nothing about this screams unique or original, and the only reason anyone is talking about it is because it's using a tool designed to steal from artists. I don't think Makihara or Tanaka had any malicious intent behind this, but I also think that just because the murderer who shot you has a bleeding heart doesn't mean they didn't shoot you in the first place. And look, it just sucks. I expected Scummy from Netflix, it's kind of their whole thing, but Wit is such an incredible studio with some of the best talent in the game. It'd be nice if the people who work there were actually treated and compensated well, because, you know, they're people first and foremost. They deserve better than slowly being made more and more redundant because some tech bros could automate lifeless art. So that's the video, and if you liked it, please remember to subscribe as it really does help us out. Have you seen The Dog and the Boy? What do you think of this entire situation? Is there any place for AI in anime? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks guys. Bye.